we? Who are the Gender Equality Agency? Well, we are a national government agency, en nationell myndighet. And we are situated here in Angered since January this year. Our main task is to coordinate and follow up the government's policy on gender equality. So if you want to know more about us, we have a table over there. Can you just wave? Yeah. Do not hesitate to talk to us and ask questions and whatever you want to know. I will, together with Nasne, who will be your host tonight.
Hello everybody, I'm the head of the local youth council here in Angered. We are under the jurisdiction of the local youth influence organization, Unga Påverkar. They are right over there with some of our youths. Amazing. So who are we? We are basically, you can guess it from our name, we work with increasing youth influence, and we do it primarily by funding and endorsing youth events. So if you're a youth and you want to do your own little event or want to do something cool with your class or something like that, and as well as through our Young Mayor program, where we get to go around with some of the local politicians and get to see how it is to be an actual mayor and stuff like that. So that's basically what we do.
Great, thank you. To introduce the two next speakers and experts from the meeting. It's Suhail Abualsameed. Where are you? There you are. Great. From Orange Habitat. And in my papers it says, crossing the borderline. How one step across a border changes everything and makes a Syrian man into a refugee with what is lost in terms of markers of manhood and masculinity.
So I'm not going to sing or dance or rap. I'm going to talk about myself. Earlier in the meeting, I got too excited and I told the story that I was supposed to tell tonight here. So I'm going to twist it a little bit. I'm not going to focus on the Syrian guy. I'm going to talk about myself. And that's more fun. Back in April 1st, 2001, I got on an airplane from where I was living, where I grew up, which is Jordan, in the Middle East. And a few hours later, I arrived in Toronto, in Canada. I'm very excited, got out of the plane, walked into the immigration office, and I got an officer to stamp my paper because I was coming as a new immigrant. When I stepped out of the airport, my whole life story has changed. I was Suhail, this Jordanian Arab man who's living among my own, speaking my language. Everybody around me, looked kind of like me, and we had a similar kind of way of living our lives. When that stamp came on my paper, and I had the word immigrant on it, I walked out an immigrant, with everything that comes with it. I came out somebody who has an accent. I never had an accent back home. I spoke my language. People understood what I was saying. There I had an accent because I was speaking a different language, English as a second language. I became a person of color. I know lots of people here would feel the same, understand what that really means. I became the Muslim guy. I never really believed in religion or God or identified with any religion. But my name and where I come from, it feels like, that's what people expect from me. I was a minority, and that was never the case back home. I chose to immigrate to Canada. I chose this label. I chose to have a stamp on my passport that says immigrant. But I didn't know I was also choosing to be a second-class citizen, somebody who's not just like everybody else. But at the same time, I was enjoying lots of things about it, because I was in a place where nobody knows me. I went out there by myself. I walked down the street and nobody really cared what I was wearing. Nobody asked me when am I going to get married. Nobody asked me how much I make, what do I do for work, or which school, which private school I went to. It was fantastic. I walking down the street, nobody knows, I'm doing whatever I want. I can recreate a whole new personality, I can be whoever I want. I can say I'm Italian if I want, I can say I'm Spanish, I can say whatever I want. So remember the date I mentioned earlier, that was April 1st, 2001. Around 5 months later, something big happened. Anybody can guess?
Became a father.
9/11? No, never. 9/11. 9/11, for those who were just getting born at that time, or very, very young to remember much of it, is a big attack on New York and DC and other places in the States. That day I was walking down the street with a friend in the morning. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't get the news yet. I was walking down the street, and suddenly there was a commotion. This was in Toronto, in Canada. And there was a commotion. There's people like running around and walking and saying things. And we stopped when somebody we knew and said, what's going on? And he said, there's this big thing that happened in New York, this big attack. There's an attack on the World Trade Center. And these other airplanes and this whole mess. And it still didn't hit us what was going on. It's like, okay, there's some other story in the news. But I thought, I'm very curious. I'm going to start working home to go and turn on the TV and see what's going on. There was no cell phones with all the information coming. It's 2001, remember? We did not get that information right into our phones. But while I was walking down the street, I started hearing other things coming from people around me. It's like, oh, I've heard. It's the Arabs who did it. It's the Muslims who did it. The Muslims attacked. The Arabs did it. And suddenly, that feeling of being anonymous, enjoying that nobody knows who I am, or cares, or looks at me, I felt like there's spotlights in the street just shining on me. That suddenly, I'm the Muslim guy, I'm the Arab guy, I'm the one who attacked New York. I ran back home, turned on the TV, spent the next week glued on the TV, talking to my friends and family and all that. And then I realized that there's a responsibility now. I ran away from that identity. I did not want to be associated with the faith. I did not care if people knew who I am. I'm not there to represent anybody. And I could easily have decided to do one of two things. One, to say, you know what? I left that place because I'm not one of them. And I wanted to come here and immigrate and become somebody Canadian. I could say, you know what, my background is from Spain or Italy. I can pass Greek. I can change my name. Lots of people. You hear lots of people say, hey, what's your name? It's Mo. It's Mohammed. It's not Mo. It's Sam. No, it's Sander. It was very easy for me to do if I wanted to. The other choice was like, no. When you talk about Muslims, even though I don't identify as one, I don't believe in God, but you talk about my mother and my brother and my best friend and my whole society. You talk about my history and my culture. This is not right. I have responsibility now to stand up and say, this is who we are, this is what the real story is. Because you have one story that's coming on TV, on your screens, and there's the story of everybody else who might look like this, who might be branded with this label, but they have a different story. I had privilege of being able to do that. Because I had a university degree, I could speak English, I had, financially I was okay, I could get jobs easily, and I could get that voice, and I didn't care really. I had a legal status, I was an immigrant, I was a legal resident of Canada. Unfortunately, that's not the story of everybody else who moves from one place to another because they have to. The Syrian refugee that I was talking about earlier today, to this other group, is somebody who had to run away from their home, who the bombs fell on his house and was destroyed, and half of their family is killed. And this person told me his personal story when he was running under very heavy rain, very cold weather, with his young daughter who was injured on his back, crossing the border at night into Jordan. He says, I still have my shirt that has the blood of my daughter while I was carrying her with me. After 3 years, I keep it. And he crossed the border and he became a refugee. He became somebody who's seen as poor, as dangerous, as somebody who doesn't have the rights like everybody else, as somebody who is a burden to the new society, and somebody who nobody else wants. So the story of each one of us can be different. What we see, because we have a label, I'm a Muslim because I'm wearing a hijab. I'm dangerous because I'm wearing this or looking like that. I'm good because I'm blonde and white and I'm dressed like this. These are just something on the surface. This is just a brand that we carry on our faces and walk around, but with each one of them there's a huge, very long, complicated story that we need to put some effort and time to try to get to know. So let's try to get to know each other better before we judge. Thank you.